What's going on, everybody? My name is Salem Soni and welcome to my YouTube channel. In this YouTube channel, we focus on two things. We talk about faith and we talk about entrepreneurship. If it's your first time, please consider subscribing. My goal with this channel was pretty simple from the beginning. Always to be able to motivate people. I've always saw myself as a motivator, but I also wanted to encourage people to uplift their faith by sharing some of my experience, but also to share some of the experience when it comes to the field of entrepreneurship, my journey in understanding business, running a couple businesses, wanting to just improve in terms of personal finance. So whether you stumble up on one of my videos on personal finances, or one of my videos where I share my faith and talk about some principles that I've learned from my journey with God, whatever the case may be, welcome to this channel. So in this video, so you have an idea of what we're going to cover today. We're going to talk about why I haven't posted videos in the past several months. What are some of the impacts and things that I've been going through during that process, what I've learned, and how that will impact some of the content and some of the things you guys will see. You want to stay until the end. There are some pretty interesting announcements that I'm going to be making. To start, I want to say that 2020 was an interesting year. When we consider what happened with the COVID-19 and the pandemic that really struck from the beginning of this year around February, March, especially for me here living in the US, it was a time where many of us kind of saw this out of nowhere. It came as a surprise and many of us were not ready. And I am kind of ashamed to say that that was kind of the case for me. When I say not ready, and I will expound on that a little bit more, the reasoning was I thought that most of the crisis that would come or that would potentially impact me would be more so financially than it would be something that would have to do with health, that would have to do with something like a sickness. I was not expecting that to happen at all. And when the COVID-19 happened, there was a major impact, an impact that had other ramifications in terms of my life. In February, I stopped making videos. Really, there's one last video that I posted, I think in May, and that was something that I would discuss more on meetings that I started doing to kind of help cope with the situation that was happening with COVID. But when COVID happened, it froze many of the plans that I had. For example, this year I was planning to get married. I know I haven't talked a lot about that, but I was planning to get married this year with the love of my life. Her name is Christelle Chilanda, and hopefully I'm going to be posting more videos with her. We actually ended up doing our traditional wedding. I'm originally from the Democratic Republic of Congo, and as part of African traditions, the DRC, or the Democratic Republic of Congo, as part of our African tradition, we have several steps which make part of our wedding process. So you have to do your traditional wedding, then you have to do your civil wedding, or the court wedding, the one that you do to be legally recognized by the government or the official country where you reside. And then you do the religious wedding, which is usually the church, depending on whatever religion you are. I'm a Christian. So we were supposed to do all those three weddings this year. But because of COVID, a lot of that wasn't able to do so. My fiance and I, but when we say my wife now, because we're traditionally married, we live in two different countries. I live in the US, she lives in Europe, specifically in Belgium. And because of that, we weren't able to see each other, to travel to see each other. So the pandemic kind of forced us to be separated from one another. And I have to be honest with you, emotionally, that was really tough. It was difficult. For those of you guys that maybe might have done long distance relationship, it's one thing to do so when you have kind of an end in mind. You knew that, okay, but this time, this was our plan. We were in a long distance relationship, I would say, since 2016. So it's been 4 years now. And actually, technically, it's been a year since I've physically seen her. So it was becoming, and it has become very difficult to adjust with that. But I had to understand that this was nothing of our doing. You know, that we didn't plan the pandemic. It wasn't one of us that didn't want to see each other or didn't want the wedding to happen or the way we wanted it to. We've heard of people doing weddings through Zoom. We heard of people doing wedding remotely. And that's what we decided to do for our traditional wedding. It was an amazing experience. We had all these people that came and experienced it online. It was a representative of my family who wanted to do, and I'll speak more on it maybe on the future videos. Let me know in the comment section if you're interested to see. It's all recorded. I'll show you the process. It was really an interesting process. I had to pay the dowry. For those who are familiar with the dowry, it was my first time even experiencing what it means to do a traditional wedding, and it was mine. So I will share with you guys what that experience was, the nerve, and how differently we did it, because we did it remotely, me here and her there. So that was an interesting experience, and that was due to COVID. Another impact of COVID in terms of my personal life was the impact that it had in the surrounding people that were within my circles who were impacted by the sickness, whether it might be losing their jobs, whether it might be actually getting sick. And that was something that was difficult. That was something that was emotional. You know, sometimes we see people online, we'll get accustomed to who they are, but there are real people that go through struggle too. There are people that are within their circle that die. There are people who within their circle that get sick and that go through difficult times. And that was no different for me. There are people within my circle that unfortunately were negatively impacted by the sickness, whether it might be with their jobs or some people who actually got sick. And unfortunately, we also lost some people this year. So it was a tough year. And I'm speaking a lot with the past, on the past tense, because I believe that God is turning things around. So from just the impact of COVID, when it might be, there was also a financial crisis happening in the US, from people losing their jobs due to COVID, the social distancing that had to happen, so people losing a lot of means of income. It was also a time where financially, I think I was not anticipating something of this magnitude happening, stopping a lot of the inflows of income. There were many plans that were put into place, different businesses that we were supposed to launch this year that were completely put into the water due to COVID. And I think it was one of those situations where I didn't see it coming. And I keep saying I didn't see it coming because I want that sting to burn, and I want that to be a continuous reminder for me to do things differently. And I'll speak more on that later in the video. So there were a business that we were supposed to launch within the real estate field that did not go through. One business that we were supposed to launch as part of a marketing agency that also didn't see the light of day. There's something that we were to launch in terms of marketing and video production agency that also had to be put back in a back burner because we weren't able to, whether it might be get to talents that will help us get the team together that was able to do what needed to be done. A lot of the traveling that had to be done for ministry, or the traveling that has to be done for some potential work or business related ventures, a lot of those were kind of put on halt. The toll of the financial started having also another toll on the mental aspect of it. Got depressed, kind of went into the spiral role of like, not only can you not make the money that you want, you cannot get married, you cannot travel, but also you have to socially distance, right? Like you can't be around other people. If not, there's the fear of being infected. There's a fear of maybe being a asymptomatic carrier. That means that you don't show any symptoms, but you might be able to infect other people, family members, parents. I mean, there was all that fear, and that to me was difficult. Coping with that was maybe the hardest part. And so in the midst of all that, keeping my faith on God, that was also rocked, but I really doubled down into understanding His love, His mercy, not quite always understanding why the situation was happening, but at least keeping my faith into believing that God would not purposely want to harm, but also was a wake-up call to draw closer to Him. So the financial crisis really started unraveling in many different aspects, and one of the lessons that was learned for me was, there's one thing when people talk about recession, and the talks of recessions were already coming up. People were talking about there was going to be another maybe housing bubble or something in the real estate field, or there was something that was going to be in the financial field. People were talking about recession, but I think no one was pandemic proof. Many people could have been recession proof, but not pandemic proof. And I think it taught me more of the importance of having multiple streams of income. and not putting all your eggs in one basket. And that's one of the lessons I've learned, and I'm going to be talking more about that on the upcoming videos. And one of the things that I've learned, why I was hit as hard as I was hit financially, and I'll share more details with you guys on that. And I've wrote some notes, so that if you see me glancing down, I'm just reading my notes, so to make sure that I'm sharing everything with you guys. So, you know, in the midst of all that was going on with COVID, living in the US, one of the things that also ended up happening was the racial tensions that were, I want to see awakened, I would want to say, or brought to the forefront. I think they were always there, but now there was a reason for more people to talk about them due to the police brutality from the shooting of George Floyd that provoked like global protest against police brutality and racial injustice and discrimination of especially people of color all over the world, and more specifically here in the US. Those were not easy, you know, from having the conversation about race, talking about race with people who are within your circle, that was difficult to be able to have conversations where for maybe people, you know, friends and family friends, that it was interesting to see how people reacted to that. Some of my closest friends, we had conversation, and it was challenging. There wasn't always an easy conversation, but they needed to be done. I think to a larger degree, it was kind of a long overdue conversation. And I'm not saying that everything is fine now, kumbaya. There's still a lot of police brutality against people of color. There's still a lot of injustice, still a lot of race. But I think we're moving forward. I think now the conversation is pushing things in the right direction. I think there still are many more steps that need to be accomplished. There's many more things that still need to be done. But I think the time this summer was an important step for us to be moving in the right directions, an important step for us to be able to see the light of day, and the importance of us to believe that we are all God's very best, meaning that we are all created in God's image. And it's not that because I'm black that only black people are loved by God, and white people, because of the history of slavery, are automatically hated by him. No, we all have to understand that sense of unity. But the conversation of integration, of the conversation of forgiveness, of love, of true love, has to be had, especially those people who for so long have been those who've gone ahead and being the persecutors. It was an interesting conversation, and then the emotional aspect of it as well played again a major role mentally, with the mental health aspect of it. So that was something that was kind of interesting. So in the midst of all that was happening, I chose to be present, and I'm using that phrase and the phrasing in a very intentional way. What I mean by that is I chose to not be caught up in social media, even YouTube, and I thought, what about the real people in my life, not just the virtual people? Don't get me wrong, you guys, from the comment, from the love that you've shown on my channel, even without videos, it's true that there's a person behind the phone as you're watching. You're a real person, but you know, we don't talk as much like in real life, you know what I mean? To me, the goal was, what about the people in my circle, the real people? How do I connect with them? The people who are on my phone, those people who have my actual personal number, what has been that relationship with them? Now that everybody was isolated, remember during this time we were all isolated, social distancing, and the fear that was there because of that, but is locked down all over the world, can't travel. So I started doing these things that were these video calls. It started on Skype, then we jumped into Zoom. Zoom started exploding, became very popular. So we started doing a lot of calls with it started with 2-3 people, and then with 5 people we would gather every weekend and just kind of share experiences. And then those friends started sharing with other friends, and then we started becoming 15, 20, all the way 30, 40 people that would come on these Zoom calls, and we would share just our experiences. And it became a global thing. I remember one time we got all the way up to 11 countries, right? 40 people on a call, 11 countries represented.
Le coronavirus poursuit sa progression en Italie. Hier, 475 morts en 24 heures.
Les Suisses sont appelés à rester chez eux jusqu'à nouvel ordre.
Et les rassemblements de plus de 20 personnes sont interdits.
Respectez le confinement, restez chez vous.
Le gouvernement congolais a pris des mesures drastiques pour tenter de contenir la propagation.
La pandémie qui entraîne une nouvelle fermeture de frontières, la plus longue au monde, celle entre les États-Unis et le Canada.
Jours pour toute personne revenant de l'étranger.
Et puis on a notre connexion directement de l'Atomium à Bruxelles, Christelle qui est là. Et votre
And it was interesting to see that in the diversity of all the people that were on the calls, how people had a hunger to be in community in the midst of being told that they had to socially distance. People were actually needed that social touch, that human touch, that personal touch. And that was special. Being able to see people in videos, we laughed, we played games, and it was an incredible experience. And you know, I started doing those calls and I kind of got hooked, and I continued to do the calls. And the calls basically lasted for several months. I remember at one point when people were still confined officially in many countries of the world, we lasted like 4 months where we were doing calls like every Saturday. It was an incredible pace. I started building a team of other leaders or just young people that wanted to be part of the core leadership team, started training them. And we started meeting often. So it was an incredible experience having those videos. And in the midst of that, all that I'm telling you happened in my circle of those who are French speakers. So originally, like I said, I'm born in the Democratic Republic of Congo. The DRC officially speaks French. We were colonized by Belgium, which is a French-speaking country in Europe. They came and colonized us. We got our independence in 1960, but we started speaking French. That's what I started in school. Same thing like other countries were colonized by the British and they speak English, so we speak French. So because of that, I started surrounding myself around these calls. I said, what about those who are French speakers all over the world? And that's kind of like how things came. And it was, to my surprise, a lot of people. We had people join us all the way from China that spoke French. We had people join us all the way from African countries to European countries, South American countries, here in the US, people from Canada. It was incredible to see all these French speakers all over the world gathering together to share our experiences, to talk, to uplift one another. And the good thing for me is it was a challenge. It was myself challenging myself to, it's been a while since I had spoken French that much. I left when I was 13 years old. I left the DRC, and when I came to the US, I immersed myself into the American culture, which meant I immersed myself into the English language. So English actually technically is my second language, French being my first, but I lost so much of French that I spoke what's called Franglish, which is basically French English. But being immersed back into doing this group helped me gain back a lot of the French that was lost. Also, it helped that my fiance also is a French speaker. So she really pushed me. So I love you, babe, for the help that you've done. So I know she watched my videos. So it was an incredible experience to be able to do that. I'm hoping that, you know, maybe in the future we'll see, maybe do something similar even for this English-speaking audience. I think that's going to be a much wider audience than the French-speaking audience, because that was still a smaller core group. So we kept it small as well because we wanted to be personable. We didn't want to have calls with like hundreds of people and lose the interpersonal touch. That was really interesting. So being more present in that sense was important. Having more calls with people around me, spending more time with my wife on speaking and talking about plans of life, things moving forward. So that was really important. Another thing is taking more time to myself. I started taking time to just kind of be by myself and think, see where I stand mentally. Took time to pray more, to fast more, to make sure that I'm hearing from God, that I'm not losing my mind. You know, there were times where sometimes as leaders, you give so much that sometimes if you're not replenished, you can eventually kind of burn out. And I felt like I was getting to a point I was burning out. You know, I was getting to a point where I was giving way more than what I felt like I was getting back. And I think that was becoming problematic. So it was really important for that time to myself, that time of retreat, that time of self-care. And it's a strange word. I know a lot of Black men don't like to talk about that, but it's important to have that mental health where it needs to be, avoiding to fall into depression, or even if you are in that, to get out of those dark places, especially sometime in the church. You know, we don't want to address those things because, you know, you should just be happy all the time, you know, especially from people where people rely on you to be able to help them get out of stuff. So that was an interesting journey going through that. But, you know, I'm just grateful. I'm grateful for the process. I'm grateful for seeing where I am today. So that was one aspect of the things that were going on during these several months. And every time I told myself, I'll get back, or it's time for me to make videos, there will be this fear or sometimes this shame. And the shame came mainly because of the first part that I told you about not being ready, not anticipating, or the way I was financially hit due to the pandemic. Because I thought to myself, Salem, you give advice to people about money. You do all these different things. Look how you find yourself, you know. You were not able to pay off the debt that you planned to do. You were not able to get all these things like you wanted to. And I'll share more on that on another video. I don't want this video to be super long. But yeah, I think that sense of shame kind of like stopped me from sharing, from releasing even this first video. But things change. I think around this time, October, November, if you're watching this is October, November-ish time in 2020. I don't know if it was due to because there's an election in the US. No, I'm joking. It has nothing to do with that. It was more so that every year I've always taken this time to be kind of a reset for me. I never wait until December 31st for me to be the new year. I've always in the past taken October and November to be a time where I plan the next year. I start acting like it's already 2021. And to me it was like, okay, here's a new beginning, here's a new set, moving forward, what does that look like? So that's what I want to talk about for the few minutes that are remaining. What is this new year moving forward? What does that look like? For this channel specifically, one of the things that I want to do is walk you guys through the journey. I want to explain to you guys a little bit more of how I ended up being not ready, and beside not being ready, how I went from not being ready to putting some things in place so that if something would happen, something similar, which I believe there could be other things that are coming for those who are not going to do things differently, right? Like for those of you who you saw what happened with the pandemic, you saw what happened with 2020, or you're choosing to not be ready, you're choosing to not do things differently, you're going to still be cut with your pants down, or you're still not going to be ready unless you are purposeful about doing things differently, right? Does that make sense? Like if you don't do anything, things are not going to change just because it's going to be a new year. things are not going to change just because it's a new year. You're going to have to decide to do things differently, do new things. So anyways, the way I'm looking at it, moving forward for this channel, for example, one of the things I want to do is I want to start making new videos that talk more about personal finance. So we're going to talk about more about and not just weird financial principles and things that you've seen in this video in the past, but even when it comes to entrepreneurship, we're going to talk more about personal finance because I think it's important. We might even dive into things that have to do with business finances, but from that regard, I want to be honest, and I'm not going to talk as a guru or someone who knows a lot. No, I'm going to more share with you guys my experience and my journey as I'm going through this phase, right? From getting a business, from like registering your business, getting all the licenses that you need to, from an operating agreement, from the structure of your business, from the idea, client acquisition, retention, like all that phase, the marketing, selling of the product or service that you have. Like I'm going to try to be as transparent as I can without, obviously revealing more company secrets, but more like showing you guys the process, like what does that look like? And a lot of it, I want to be able to do it really kind of for free. Obviously there's some things where if you guys need coaching or mastermind, and I don't even have anything put in place right now. I'll just be honest with you. Because a lot of it is going to be like, I want to show you guys the process. My goal is to motivate people to go, because I believe this time has shown us that you can't just rely on one stream of income. Even if you love your job. See, a lot of people thought that they loved their job, they had this sense of job security. Well, that's gone. Like maybe your boss loved you, but what happens whenever the revenue is not even cut in half? It's cut by 80%. And they have to let people go. Even people who've been there for decades. That's something to think about. I don't think you should just willy-nilly be like, and not be conscious of like what the future of your family might look like if you're not able to bring in the income that you were doing so. Especially if you're a little bit older. I know that my audience is not necessarily that much older. It's usually around the demographic of my age, millennials, and those maybe Generation X, maybe some Generation Y and Z, it depends. But the point I'm trying to say is, like, we're talking more about the importance of like personal finance, how does it impact the business aspect of it, sharing my story, my journey with you guys, and see how that works. I want to do more how-to videos and tutorial videos where it's going to be more like screen sharing. I'll show you guys some of the things that I do, from like some of the YouTube stuff, and some of the business stuff, some of the smaller marketing aspect of things that can help you be more effective. It's going to be a lot of like how-to tutorials showing you step by step. A lot of that is something I wish I'd have known in the past. Like I wish people, and I think now that a lot of things are virtually done, things are done online, there's a lot more people showing you like the exact step-by-step things you need to do, right? So I'm going to start doing more videos like that as well. It's going to be a lot of training videos. During this past time, what I've been doing a lot of the Zoom calls with my French-speaking audience, I started doing a lot of like faith-based training, understanding how to walk in your faith during these different times, some of the basics of the faith. I'll give you, for example, an example. One of the things that I started doing a training about is what we call the 5 T's. The 5 T's are what we call your treasure, your talent, your testimony, your technology, and your time. Those are the 5 T's of one. The 5 T's of one potential. So everybody has a potential in them, and the different phases of your potential. What I mean by potential means the thing that you have in you that you can become, or that you can do. One of the ways to help you discover that or to help you maximize that potential is what we call the 5 T's, right? What are those talents that you have? Like, as part of your potential, what are the things that you are talented about? What about your treasure? Your treasure means things that you do possess. What it might be physical things, what it might be financial things. What are your treasure? Your time. I think that's self-explanatory. How do you manage your time? How do you maximize your time? How do you use your time to be able to maximize your talent and your treasure, right? Understanding technology. I think more than ever, the pandemic has pushed everyone to maximize their technology. So we'll talk about that. One of the things I even talked about in the end, your testimony. Everybody has a story. How does your story impact or propel your potential? Right? So the 5 T's of your potential, powerful training, right? And I'll share with you guys maybe a little bit more about on something like that. There's many more acronyms on many more topics that we can be able to discuss. And that's from a faith speaking aspect. Might be doing some training on understanding how to do public speaking or speaking in front of the camera, understanding how to be comfortable if you're doing this for work, how to understand how to do videos as this. I've been doing videos since, I don't even know, 2009, 2008, doing YouTube since 2013, I think, 12, 13. And, you know, professionally, I like shooting videos and stuff like that for over 5-6 years now. So, you know, I might show you guys some of the things I've learned, some of the things that I've understood, some of the softwares that I used in some training, a little bit of marketing, understanding how to do some marketing depending on the space that you are. Marketing can be a very broad topic. So we'll have to maybe niche it down to something more specific. Also, some other planned upcoming videos. I want to do more vlogs. I think that's going to go online into the sharing to you guys what this journey looks like. So it's going to be some outdoors. We start going a little bit more outdoor. So we might also do some shows. What I mean by shows is, like, I want to do some like mini series where we talk about different things, or maybe we want to do panel discussions, or we're talking about a particular topic. And I even started doing something like this for those of you guys who've watched some of my videos called The Mind Speak. It was like a form of a podcast a little bit where we discuss a topic, but I don't know if I want to do it as a podcast where it's like an audio, or it's going to be like a video podcast. I don't know. I'm still debating. I'm even thinking about doing something with my wife perhaps, or something with a friend, or something with a group of other friends. We'll see. I really want to do some shows to bring some sort of variety that may go outside of just specifically doing faith or entrepreneurship or personal finance type videos. Then we'll see. We'll see how that goes. But that's something that you might have to look into in the next year or two to come. There's also the possibility of opening a second channel. So I wanted to open a second channel. This channel might be that it's not that it might be, it probably will be dedicated to my French-speaking audience. Donc, je parle français pour ceux qui m'entendent pour une première fois. En tout cas, pour ceux qui ne savent pas, je suis né au Congo, c'est quoi je parle français. Donc, cette deuxième chaîne sera pour ceux qui parlent français. I really want to be able to reach that audience as well. I was just so pleased and so happy during that experience, like I shared with you guys, that I want to be able to do something for them, you know. So, look for that. There's going to be a second channel. Most likely, it's going to be a French-speaking channel. So, there's going to be also some business work that I might be doing more, and I'm going to be more intentional about. For those of you guys who want to go beyond the free stuff that you see here on YouTube, beyond some of the stuff that I'm teaching, more on the personal stuff where there might be some consulting work. So one-on-one work. I'm tired. I'm shooting this. It's almost like late at night. But I wanted to make sure I get this out to you guys. So also, there are some business ventures that I might be launching or relaunching, primarily, for example, in the real estate field. I'm going to be speaking more about that, but also for those who are thinking about doing maybe some joint ventures or some projects together, it's going to be primarily within the real estate investing realm, right? So you understand, we're talking about more about real estate investing and that industry. So I'm also going to be dabbling into crypto investing, cryptocurrencies. That's something that has perked up my curiosity in the past several months. Dabbled in it, whether it might be decentralized apps and altcoins and all that kind of terminology in cryptocurrency. I want to dive more into that, and I don't know if you guys are interested. If you are, I might be making more videos on those. I just don't want that because it's one of those. Still the wild west a little bit, but it's the future, and I think we cannot just pretend like it doesn't exist, because again, remember, this comes back to what I said at the beginning. I wasn't ready, and I don't want that to be the case again. when I see something, I'm seeing something ahead. I don't want to be the people like 5 years from now be like, wait, I gotta pay with Bitcoin? Like, what's Bitcoin? No, I don't want, like, that will be foolish. So that a little bit summarizes some of the things that you guys can be able to expect. Like I said, 2020 has been an extremely difficult year, but the best is yet to come. There's more things. I think things are turning around. I think for those who are choosing to be ready, they're going to see much more success, better planning. They're going to see things turn around for the better because they are more conscious and they're choosing, and they're not just going to sit there and complain and cry. So I ask you to join me on this journey, to embark on this journey, to go and, you know, let's transform our life. Let's give the best and see the best that we have. All right, that's all that I have for you. This video is much longer than I expected, but I hope you guys won't be coming. My hope is to start posting more videos as I get back to the groove of it. I think the more I get comfortable, the more videos I'll start pushing out. So again, thank you guys for watching this video. If this video has been a blessing, an encouragement to you, please consider subscribing. Also share this video to someone else, and I'll see you in the next video. Remember, you're God's very best. Take care. Thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you were really blessed by it. Make sure to click that subscribe button and also the notification bell so you get notified on any of our upcoming videos. If you want to watch another video right now, click the video on the side and also the Give Now button if you want to support what we do. I hope to see you in the next video. Take care.